everyone, this is Tony from her Homestead Skills, and I guess today's farmer's warning is coming from the other side of the world. We published one here, close to a month ago now, and a lot of people have actually taken heed, and some have balked us. But many of you have decided that it was definitely a message worth listening to and are preparing accordingly. Now, anyone that has been paying attention to what's going on in the world recognizes that the war in Ukraine has limited the supply of grains that are going to numerous countries. And since Ukraine is one of the largest producers of grains, that is having a serious effect on many, many peoples. Okay, so that's one country that's been taken out of food production that normally supplies quite a lot of grain to quite a number of countries. I don't know what people are going to do in lieu of that, or in respect to that. Approximately a month ago, this channel has sounded the alarm regarding the situation that farmers are facing in North America, and since then I have seen other areas doing the same thing. We have noticed that even on the news they're beginning to admit that farmers in North America are struggling, that they're having issues. You know, the other day where was I at? I don't recall where it was, but oh yes, Canada Day. We were invited to the club of the senior family member that invited us out that day. And that particular club had a little play area, I guess, where you build blocks up, and then you take one block down without trying to have the whole thing collapse on you. And this is, looking at what's going on these days, this is what that reminds me of, how they've built this block of economics, and where everything is dependent on the last block. The one on top of it is dependent on the one underneath it. And when you try to remove the one at the bottom, perhaps you can remove 1, 2, maybe 3, maybe 4, but at some point, when you've removed too many of them, the whole thing collapses. Now, the farmers in North America are like those pegs at the bottom, that you remove those and you have food insecurity issues beginning to develop because food isn't being produced. So whatever the cause, whatever the reason, a lot of this is being done in a way that destroys or pulls that peg out from the bottom. Perhaps there are ways to achieve their ends without doing that, but they're not looking at that. They're just saying, let's pull this peg out, and come what may, we want this situation to occur. Little realizing that pulling that one peg will create a collapse of the whole. The truckers have been in the same boat as the food producers. They're the ones that move the product from the farmers where it's grown to the distribution channels and then to the table where you get to partake. And those are the pegs at the bottom. They are the canary in the coal mine. You remove them, and collapse is sure to follow. Now, with the issue that we've had the last 2 years, certain segments of society were considered essential. I think that was the term that was used, essential. They provided essential services. And so they were allowed to carry on providing those services in spite of anything else. Those that were not deemed essential have either succumbed to the pressures on them, or they have found new areas and new avenues to continue on and survive what was being thrown at them. So a lot of jobs were lost and will never return. A lot of people retired. I mean, everyone's familiar with what goes on in North America. We certainly pay a lot of attention to it. But throughout Europe, if you watch the news at all, you're noticing that there's a lot of change happening there as well. The leader of England resigned, was forced to resign. The leader of Sri Lanka was forced out of his position, and Sri Lanka is now in economic chaos. The peoples of Sri Lanka are already facing all those food shortages, energy shortages, you name it. They're already dealing with that. What we're warning about here, that will be happening here come the fall, hopefully not as serious, but they are already facing them. Farmers in the Netherlands have unified in protest against the regulations that they are now being forced to live under. And whether you agree with them or whether you support them, whether you don't support them, whether you're angry with them, or whether they have interfered with your life and your ability to do what you need to do, is irrelevant. Everyone's going to be affected here. So support, don't support, get angry, think that one side is right, the other side is right, doesn't really matter. Everyone is going to be hurt and everyone's going to be affected. So what has happened since then? Quite a number of European countries have joined in this protest because obviously it affects them as well. So to date, from what I understand, we have Germany, Spain, Italy, and Poland have joined in this protest. So now that is 5 major countries that have joined in this farmers' protest based on the changes that they're being forced to make and live under, and they don't feel that they will be able to survive and produce. So what happens after these protests? Well, there'll be those that are hurt, there'll be those that have gained, but definitely they will make a dent, they will make a mark, and unfortunately I don't believe these protests will end. Maybe they started in Canada, but I don't believe they started in Canada. Even Tiananmen Square, which was many, many years ago, and perhaps very few people remember that, but Tiananmen Square was in China, and very brutal, taking those people down after their protests. And who else was there? Oh yes, the protests in Iran. A lot of those people were brutalized into submission. But Westerners are not so easily brutalized into submission. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. Organizer, oh yes, Poland as well was another one. There was a great Polish uprising years and years and years ago. Lech Walesa, I believe, was one of the leaders who created quite a storm. See, and these things are just, perhaps civilization does have to move in a certain direction, but perhaps not in such a way that it is so destructive and disruptive to people. So if I suggest, put aside extra food, try to look after yours and your own and your family, and be kind and be thoughtful and be generous. I think humanity is going to need a lot of generosity and kindness in the next few years. The one thing none of us can do, and although many try, is to put your head in the sand and say nothing is happening and it's not going to affect me. It's going to affect every one of us. I'm hoping that these protests in Europe do not turn violent and deadly, and that perhaps those people are actually listened to and something good comes out of them. because if it doesn't, they'll just grow bigger and they'll continue. So let's hope for the best, prepare for the worst. This is Tony from Her Homestead Skills. I can't say I hope you enjoy this video, but I can say we hope we'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.